In a quiet room, a man is told his entire family has perished and his fortune has been reduced to ash, yet he does not flinch. He simply adjusts his robe and asks what is for dinner. We call this person a Stoic, but the modern world has lied to you about what that word actually means. You have been conditioned to believe that Stoicism is the mere suppression of emotion, a stone-faced endurance of misery that borders on the sociopathic. But the elite architects of the mind, those who move through the chaos of the 21st century with an eerie, predatory stillness, know a different truth. They know that Stoicism isn't about feeling less. It is about a psychological terraforming that renders you immune to the weapons of the world. Most people are puppets, their strings pulled by every notification, every insult, and every market crash, dancing to a rhythm they didn't compose. But there is a silent minority moving among us who have cut those strings entirely. They operate on a frequency of absolute clarity that looks like madness to the uninitiated. You are currently a slave to your own neurochemistry, a victim of a biological hardware that hasn't updated in 50,000 years. But today, we are going to force an override. By the time this journey concludes, the version of you that started this video will no longer exist, replaced by something far more resilient. There is a specific final psychological seal, the ego death of the sovereign, that we will uncover at the very end, which separates the hobbyist from the master. Imagine a ship caught in a Category 5 hurricane. The crew is screaming, the wood is splintering, and the salt water is burning their eyes. Now imagine a single sailor standing on the deck, watching the waves not with fear, but with the detached curiosity of a scientist observing a chemical reaction. This is the dichotomy of control, the foundational pillar of the Stoic fortress, yet it is rarely used to its full potential. Dark psychology teaches us that the human brain is addicted to the illusion of control. We obsess over the weather, the opinions of strangers, and the inevitable decay of time because our ego demands that the universe bow to our will. When it doesn't, we suffer. The modern Stoic performs a radical act of cognitive surgery. They amputate the parts of their identity that are tied to external outcomes. They realize that their boss's anger, their partner's betrayal, or the collapse of the global economy are as indifferent as the rain. If you cannot control it, it does not exist within the realm of your concern. This creates a vacuum of power. When you stop leaking energy into the void of the uncontrollable, that energy pools within you, creating a terrifying level of focus. This is why the most successful individuals often seem cold. They aren't heartless. They have simply optimized their emotional bandwidth to ignore the static of the masses. But focus is only the beginning of the transformation. To truly thrive in the coming chaos, one must master the art of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. While the self-help industry poisons your mind with toxic positivity and the delusion that visualizing success will bring it to fruition, the Stoic does the opposite. They sit in the dark and vividly imagine the worst possible scenarios. They feel the sting of poverty, the weight of loneliness, and the cold touch of their own death. They don't do this to become depressed. They do it to strip the world of its power to surprise them. Surprise is the mother of panic, and panic is the death of the rational mind. By experiencing the catastrophe in the theater of the mind first, you inoculate yourself against the reality. When the disaster finally arrives, the world is screaming, but you are merely experiencing a rerun. You have already lived through the collapse 1,000 times, and in each version you survived. This is the secret of the internal citadel, a mental space so fortified that no external force can breach its walls. As we descend deeper into these psychological shadows, remember that the most dangerous weapon you possess is not your intellect, but your perception. Within the next few minutes, we will explore how to invert pain into power, leading us toward that final secret of the sovereign mind that changes everything. Consider the concept of amor fati, the love of one's fate. This is not a passive acceptance of your lot in life. It is a predatory embrace of everything that happens to you. If you are betrayed, you do not mourn the loss of trust. You celebrate the opportunity to practice self-reliance. If you fail, you do not regret the effort. You devour the data of the failure to sharpen your next attack. To the modern Stoic, there is no such thing as a bad event. There is only material. Just as fire consumes everything you throw into it and grows brighter, the Stoic mind consumes tragedy and turns it into fuel. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid the flame, never realizing that they are the fuel. But when you adopt the mindset of the fire, the very things meant to destroy you become the source of your heat. This is the ultimate form of psychological alchemy, turning the lead of human suffering into the gold of absolute autonomy. This autonomy, however, requires a brutal honesty that most are too weak to endure. We live in an era of social validation loops, where our sense of self is curated through the lens of others' perceptions. We are haunted by the ghost of reputation. The Stoic recognizes that what others think of you is none of your business. It is a phantom, a flickering shadow on a wall that has no substance. To care about your reputation is to hand the keys of your internal kingdom to a mob of distracted, fickle, and often intelligent strangers. The elite mind practices voluntary hardship to break this dependency. They might sleep on the floor when they have a soft bed, or fast when they have a full fridge, simply to remind their nervous system that they do not need the comforts of the world. They are training for the day the world takes those comforts away. They are becoming anti-fragile. While a fragile system breaks under stress and a robust system resists it, an anti-fragile system, like the human muscle or the Stoic mind, actually gets stronger when it is attacked. You must seek out the friction. You must crave the chaos, because in a world that is becoming increasingly soft, the one who is intentionally hard becomes a god among sheep. But being hard is not enough. You must also be invisible. The world is currently obsessed with performative excellence. Everyone wants to be seen, to be heard, and to be acknowledged. But the true Stoic understands the power of the void. They move in silence. They do not announce their plans. They do not brag about their discipline, and they do not seek out mentors to hold their hand. They understand that the moment you speak about your intentions, you release a hit of dopamine that tricks your brain into thinking you've already achieved them. By remaining silent, you keep that pressure built up inside you, a kinetic energy that can only be released through action. This is dark Stoicism, using the silence as a psychological cloak. While your competitors are busy shouting their goals to the heavens, you are in the shadows, executing. We are approaching the threshold of the final truth, the secret that bridges the gap between ancient philosophy and modern dominance. But before we cross it, we must address the tyranny of the moment. Most of your anxiety stems from a fractured relationship with time. You are either mourning a past you cannot change or fearing a future that hasn't happened. The Stoic lives in the perpetual now, but with a twist. They view the present through the lens of subspecie aeternitas, from the perspective of eternity. They look at their current problems and then zoom out. They see their city, their planet, the solar system, and the billions of years that came before and will come after. In the grand tapestry of the cosmos, your devastating breakup or your career-ending mistake is less than a speck of dust. This isn't meant to make you feel insignificant. It's meant to make you feel free. If nothing truly matters in the cosmic scale, then you are free to play the game of life with a reckless, joyful intensity. You can take the risks others won't take because you realize that the stakes are an illusion. This brings us to the most uncomfortable realization of all. Memento mori. Remember that you will die. Not in a metaphorical sense, but in a literal, visceral sense. Your heart will stop, your lungs will fail, and the world will continue without you as if you never hear. The modern Stoic keeps a skull on his desk, not as a morbid decoration, but as a compass. If you were to die tonight, would you be satisfied with the person you were today?
Would you be proud of the time you spent scrolling, complaining, and fearing? Death is the ultimate filter. It strips away the trivial and leaves only the essential. When you live in the constant presence of your own end, you become fearless. What can a man who has accepted his own annihilation possibly fear from a boss, a politician, or a critic? You are now standing at the edge of the abyss. The final secret I promised is not a technique or a mantra. It is a fundamental shift in the architecture of your soul. It is the ego death of the sovereign. Most people use Stoicism as a tool to get what they want. They want to be calm so they can make more money. They want to be resilient so they can win. But as long as you are using Stoicism to serve your ego, you are still a prisoner. The final stage of the Stoic evolution is the realization that the you are trying to protect doesn't exist. There is no core identity, no true